guys, we're back this week, and I was kind of debating on whether or not to do this video, but I just went ahead and did it because I think that it might help a lot of you out there. And also it's very important to educate because surprisingly there's a lot of people who still don't think mental health issues are like diseases. So I guess I'll start from like the beginning. The first time I kind of tiptoed into depression and anxiety, they came kind of both running into the same course. On my senior year of high school, I was on acne medication called Accutane or Roaccutane, depending on where you're living. So it's a pretty harsh drug, and it I believe it has been changed a little because I've been on Accutane again, and I remember the side effects listed weren't quite the same this time. The first time around, about 8 years ago, the side effects listed would include depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts, and everything like that. I didn't even look at the side effects, and I wasn't even told of the side effects by the doctor, which I think is a major issue. And I kind of realized, yeah, this is it. This is the real world. You're going off to college to study something you're not even sure you like. Side note, I didn't. So I was really anxious, and I just found myself like crying at all this stupid stuff. I would cry every day and attribute that to the fact that I didn't want to go to college and I didn't want to follow that traditional path and everything like that. And then I started getting really sleepy. I always wanted to stay in. I never wanted to see anyone. In my senior year, I was kind of popular, so this was kind of like a change in mood for me. And the first time I think I realized something was really wrong was once when I was watching TV, and back then, if you changed the channel of like cable, if you changed it in one room, it would change in the living room. So yeah, I got to the living room and there was a like football match on. And I changed it because I didn't think anyone was watching it. And then my brother just yelled, "Don't change the channel!" Just like a regular yell. It wasn't even mean or anything. And I just started bawling my eyes out and really crying. And that's when I first thought, like, okay, this is not normal. Why am I crying? I don't even know why I'm crying. So then I talked to my mom. There is kind of a slight history with depression in my family. So my mom has had depression before. My dad died from brain cancer. And every time there was kind of like a health issue in the family, she would just go back to that dark place and thinking, this is it, and I don't want to know what the diagnosis is because I'm really scared. And she was always like really terrified of it. And I think she got like a little trauma as well. So she did go through a big phase where she was really depressed and she had to take medication and everything. And my aunt also takes an anti-anxiety medication. So it's really a thing that I was kind of like used to, and it was never like a taboo in my family, thankfully. I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know it was depression. I didn't feel like I was depressed. When people define what depression was, I didn't feel like I was depressed because I never really thought about it. But when I told the symptoms to my mom, I was talking about it. I was like, something's not right. I don't feel right. I don't feel like myself. And she identified it like right away because she had it. So I went off those meds and eventually went back to normal. So I knew that at that time it wasn't something that I was reacting to by myself in life, but it was something caused by chemical imbalance in my system due to the meds. So then I went to college and I studied architecture first and then I started fashion design. I quit architecture because I hated it. But I think that's when my anxiety really started to kick in because I was like panicking all the time because I'm like, I don't like this. What am I gonna do with my life? Because I pulled a lot of all-nighters that really messed up with my sleep schedule. If you are an architecture student and if you know one, you probably know what I'm talking about. The less I slept, the more anxious I was, which made me sleep even less. It was a ball of fear that would just run around inside me. Then I started studying fashion design. Halfway through the third year, I felt drained of all of everything. I honestly can't even express into words how tired I was of nothing in specific, but of living in general. And you would think that a person who has like a minor depression then can identify a second one coming. I would think that too, and I thought that to myself a lot. But truth is, I didn't. Same symptoms, I would cry all the time, I was always tired. I felt like it was a tired that's not the same tired when you don't sleep. I mean, when you don't sleep, you're tired like sleepy. When you're depressed, sometimes you're tired like your whole body is dragging across the world. and everything feels really heavy, and ugh. So I felt like crap most of the time. I wouldn't even go out. I didn't have really many friends that I identified with in college because they were all like 5 years younger than me. And I would just go back home, college, home, and I'd just be in a ball of depression. It got so bad that sometimes I would wake up to dress up for college, and I would break down in tears just getting dressed, just thinking of going back there, and just be like, this is just not worth living for. Which sounds stupid and ridiculous, I know, but that's how depression gets you. Gets you, like, it doesn't even have to be the worst thing that's happening in the world to you, but when you're depressed, everything comes through like a really rainy filter. Imagine like an Instagram filter that is really gloomy and dark and gray. And nothing through that filter. You can't see a light in the tunnel. You just can't think like things are gonna get better. You just think to yourself, and I used to say this out loud to my boyfriend and everything, things are not gonna get better. Things are just gonna get worse. I can't find a way in my mind that anything would ever be better from now on. This went on for a few months, and I talked to my mom, but she didn't think it was to that point, because I also didn't want to tell her that I was crying every day, because I didn't want to worry her. I thought it was just me being a little bratty or whatever. Just that way, I started crying when my brother told me not to change the channel. It was the first, like, I had that kick exact moment through that depression it was when I was trying to run to catch the bus because it was like leaving off the bus stop. This sounds so messed up. And then I missed the bus, and then I just broke down in tears in public. Like, people were staring, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And like, at that point I thought, yeah, something's not right. Again, when you're depressed, like for me, it was like I wanted to sleep all the time and I could never sleep, which was why I felt so exhausted and my body felt really heavy, and I just felt like crawling out of my own skin. And having acne also didn't help, because I would just look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh, why am I getting ready today? Like, why am I going into society for? At times I felt really ugly. Like, I would look in the mirror and feel like, why? Like, why would anyone think that I'm pretty? And I'm kind of like crying now. Why is this happening? I'm not a cry person, I promise. But, okay, that's happening. So yeah, I just think like sometimes, because my boyfriend is the best, and he would always tell me like, you're so beautiful, you don't even have any idea of it. And I would just feel like he's gotta be trolling me, right? Because like, do you see the same thing I'm seeing? Anyway, so I got off track. Okay, so then I went on medication, and I'm still taking that medication right now. So I'm kind of lowering my dosage. You may be fine, but when you lower your dosage, it messed up with your system, because your system got used to that percentage of the chemical you're taking in. You tend to have like depressed episodes. That's what I call them, because you're not depressed all the time. But when you lower, like the day after you lower, 2 days after you lower your dosage, usually you have like one of those days where it's like, oh, it's heavy. I get really, really, really sleepy when I lower my dosage. And it's a kind of sleep status where it's not even like I'm sleepy. It's a status that sometimes when I first started lowering my dosage, there would be days where I want to wake up and get out of bed, and I couldn't physically move. I was so sleepy I couldn't open my eyes. I had to do like enormous strength and will to open just a little bit. And it was so powerful that I thought I didn't have any control over my own body. I think the most issues I've had with depression is when I talk really openly about it, people will really shy away from talking about depression. So when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking antidepressants, people are like, whoa, damn, let me slide off the conversation. People are just like very uneducated about depression in general, depression and anxiety. They think that if you think positive, you can't be depressed. I'm not saying, definitely not saying I've had like a really, really bad depression. I think for me it was just like tiptoeing into it, but it's still very scary. And anxiety is still something that is with me, even though I think I've left the depression part behind for now, at least, hopefully forever, but for now at least. With that lowering the dosage, my anxiety my natural anxiety kind of starts to peek through. So I sleep a lot less now that I'm off my meds. And I have these moments where I feel like someone's hands are legit around my heart and my chest and just squishing it. Sometimes I do have like these panic attacks where I feel like I can't breathe properly and it hurts to breathe, and that usually comes around night, which is when like I'm alone in bed and my head starts thinking things through. Sometimes I'm anxious and I feel that like physical feeling of not being able to breathe properly, and I don't even know why I'm anxious. And I hope that if you do feel like you're depressed, don't shrug it off. If it's gotten to a point where you feel like you're more unhappy than happy, then you should definitely go see someone and talk about it. I know that it can be really hard to talk about these things. Don't let your like mental health and health in general not be prioritized in front of what society will think of it. So if you want to share your stories down below, I will answer every single one of them, and I promise that I'm here to give you some support or some kind of sense of like, if I could get through this, you can get through this too. I don't really know what to say anymore. I hope, not that you liked it, but I hope that it was helpful somehow. And, if this video even helps one of you kind of not feel as lonely and as suffocated by the world you're living in, then I think I've done my job for today, at least. So yeah, I hope I see you next week.